Welcome to Doe's Fun with Tac Phones, Episode 9, TA-838 Operations. A while back somebody contacted me and had some questions about TA-838. I'd already gone over them in the episode about 4-wire phones, but I decided, you know what, I'll make one dedicated just to the TA-838. So sit back and enjoy. Since to talk about the TA-838, we have to start by talking about the TA-312 and the old magnetophones, where everything sort of started. Eventually, probably in the around the turn of the century, they came up with a field phone. During World War II, field phones were quite common at that time, but they all had one thing in common. They were all hand-cranked, magneto-driven phones. We basically called one phone, or you called a central switchboard where you had an attendant or operator who then you told, I want to talk to the 3rd Battalion or whoever, and they would patch you through on switchboard. So that's how it was. That's how it was even into World War II and Korea and the early days of Vietnam. Now, parallel to that, at the same time, they did have automatic switching equipment, which allowed you to make dial phone calls and such, but at the time it was so big and large it just wasn't practical. It was easier to have a automatic switch, or attended switchboard where one person was sitting there operating the phone and passing phone calls around, and then by using trunks you could connect switches together to make calls between switches, and eventually it just got bigger and bigger. Well, as electronics progressed and they came up with basically solid-state electronics, it allowed you to build small automated switchboards that didn't require an attendant. Well, this phone didn't work now because it didn't have any way to dial. So what they came up next was the attachment called a TA-955, and this is right here. What it allowed you to do was take your regular old field phone, hook it up to one of the new automated switchboards they had in the field, and you could actually dial numbers on it and make phone calls. And that was good. As these new automated switchboards were coming into the field, they were rather large, and they weren't the smallest thing that was coming out. At the same time, the military was also fielding what was called Autovon. Autovon was basically a military-controlled Watts telephone network, basically what it was. Military controller operated its own trunk lines and phone switches that connected bases and such, and this came out of the incidents that occurred during the Cuban Missile Crisis with command and control. So it became a big deal. So as these Autovon systems went in, you started having Autovon telephone sets. Now what made Autovon unique was the first Autovon phones didn't use just 2 wires. They used a 4-wire connector. So it was actually a 4-wire telephone like this one right here, a TA-341. So simultaneously what you had going on is you had 2-wire phones like this, tactically in the field, being used alongside phones like this with 4-wire Autovon trunks, and things just started getting confusing. So then they came up with the idea of coming out and putting something together all in one. So what ended up happening was the TA-838 came out. And what made the TA-838 so awesome or interesting at the time was it could operate in either the 4-wire phone mode to talk to an Autovon switch, or it could function in a 2-wire phone and make phone calls to the automated switchboard in the field. Also notice there's no longer a hand crank on it. So although it's 2-wire, it cannot call another field phone like a TA-312. It was all based on automated switching. And basically it's got basic components on it. It's got a compartment here that holds 4 C-cell batteries. It's got the binding post right here where everything's connected up. If you're going to use 4-wire for, say, an Autovon set, you use all 4 of the terminals. If you're going to use a 2-wire connection to a automatic switchboard, 2-wire in the field, you use these 2 right here. Then by using this selector right here with either a coin or a screwdriver, you could go through and toggle through what settings you wanted. The settings you have on here is you have a DC local battery, which means you're going to be operating in a 2-wire mode using battery power from the phone itself, or DC common battery, which is a 2-wire operation where you're connected to a switchboard. The switchboard is providing power to your phone. Then there is a 4-wire DC common battery and a 4-wire DC local battery. These are basically 4-wire modes where you'd have to have 4 wires connected to the phone to make it operate. It also has an AC supervision mode, which was really used with the old Autovon system, but did, instead of sending basically relay closures at the distant end of the switchboard. When you pick the phone up, it actually sends a tone to the switchboard that says, I'm off hook. The switchboard will then send you dial tone, and that's how it operated. That's AC supervision. It also has one more unique feature on it. It's capable of working in a point-to-point mode with another TA-838 or a 4-wire phone. As you can see, it's got the dial keypad right here with the standard Audubon on here, which is the military precedence. It's got a redial mode, a conferencing mode, and the standard phone switches. It's got either a oral or it's got a visual and an oral ring indicator, which is controlled right here. The volume of the ringer is controlled right here, and the light can actually be turned on or off right here, the ring indicator, and that's pretty much how it works. This was probably the last, or is the last, analog phone that was made and fielded by the U.S. military. And like I said, it's ruggedized right here like this. It's pretty sturdy sets. And like I said, because they worked in 2 modes, they were used a lot. Okay, next what we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate some of the modes they actually operated in so you can get an idea of how things worked. Okay, the first mode we're going to demonstrate is the actual 2-wire mode. We have it set in 2-wire common battery, and I actually have it hooked up to my phone jack in my house, so we're going to use the local plain old telephone system. I'm actually going to make a phone call from this phone to my cell phone. So, here we go. Okay, first ring. Here we go, it's ringing now. Second ring, I'll go ahead and answer it. Test 1 2. Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2. Okay, goodbye. And that's that. And that was one of the nice things about it. It's pretty ruggedized. You can hang it up outside. You could use it to connect to a tactical switchboard in the field, such as a 3614 or a larger Tech-39 or Tech-42, which are big shelterized portable phone systems. So that's basically how it worked. Next, I'm going to demonstrate it being used in a 4-wire mode to actually make a point-to-point phone call to another 4-wire phone. Okay, this is the second mode I'm going to demonstrate it in. We're actually set up, we're going to do it in a point-to-point mode. The TA-838 is set for 4-wire point-to-point, and it's going to talk to a TA-341 that is set in a 4-wire point-to-point. In this application, we're going to use 4 wires, 2 transmit wires, 2 receive wires. And what's interesting about this is the transmit side right here is actually wired to the receive side right here, and vice versa. The transmit side here, wired to the receive side here. So that basically is how it's going to work. The thing that's interesting about this is it's automatic. As soon as I pick this phone up, it's going to send a 570 hertz ringtone, a tone to this, which makes this phone ring. Now that tone only lasts for so long, so unlike a normal phone where you call it, and no one answers the other end, it rings and rings and rings until the answering machine picks up or you hang up. This will only ring for so many seconds and then stop. So if you want to recall because nobody answers, you have to hang up and it'll start the process all over again. Another thing that's interesting about these is when I call from this phone to this phone and I pick this phone up, this phone sends a tone back to this phone. So there'll be a 2 or 3 second period where after I pick the phone up, I can't talk because that tone's in progress. But it goes away and you can talk. So we'll go ahead and we'll demonstrate that right now. There's the ring. Test 1 2 3 4 5. 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 Test, test, test. As you can see, works back and forth, works well. Okay, now we're going to go the other way. I'm going to call from the 341 to the 838. There, you notice it only rings for so long, but it's still there. So when I pick it up, I can test 1 2 3 4 5. Test 1 2 3 4 5. Test 1 2 3 4 5. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's it. Pretty simple. The only thing that's difference between this and doing the same thing with field phones is with field phones you can put 4, 5, 6, whatever field phones together, and when you ring one, they'll all ring and everybody can talk together in a big party line. It doesn't work like that on 4-wire phones. If we were to add another 4-wire phone to, say, this end, this circuit right here, we could talk between all 3 phones, but the other 341 or other 4-wire phone we added in this position could talk from here to here, but could not talk from here to here. So basically you could have somebody talking here, but not hear what he's saying here. If that's acceptable, that can be done, but lots of times when you want to hook them all together, it's for a big party line, so that's how it's hooked up. And like I said, this is a 4-wire point-to-point demonstration. Okay, this is the final mode I'm going to demonstrate for you. This is an interesting mode. We're going to actually use a TA-312 to call a TA-838. And people say, why would you want to do that? Well, let's say there's an emergency situation. You wanted to have just a phone to call to. You can't call this way. Or I've seen them used with the old SB22 switchboards where you have a whole bunch of field phones connected to the switchboard, and you'd have one of these phones connected to the switchboard for the operator to use, and you could actually call from here and say, hey, call the switchboard and say, hey, call this phone number for me. And they could then pick this phone up, dial the phone number for you. When the party rang on the other end, they would then patch you in, and you were free to make a phone call. So you basically could make a phone call from a foxhole or tent in the field to talk to your wife on the phone at home. And that's how it was used for a lot. So I'm going to go ahead right now. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to call from the 312 to the 838. Notice it only rings when the phone is cranked, so it's not automatic. It's actual manual ring. We can pick the phone up. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Test 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. As notice, there's no push to talk on it, so it's just hot as soon as you pick it up. And to do that, the phone is actually set in what's called DC, local battery, which means we're getting all of our power right here, and we're only using the 2-wire connections on here like you'd use for a normal 2-wire pop phone. That's just something interesting you can do with it. Thanks for watching this episode, and if you have any comments, please contact me on the slide or the email on this slide right here. And like always, if the phones don't work, the comm's all fucked up.